This is Operation B, the podcast about living with intention, building what feels true, and dropping the things that don't. A place where purpose meets practice. I'm Jamie Thurber, your host, and together we'll explore how to live with clarity, freedom, and alignment without burning out or losing yourself, because it's time to be who you're meant to be. Let's get into it. This episode of Operation B is brought to you by Premium Kitchen and Bath. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Operation B. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and we are coming at you from the studio today. I wanted to just kind of riff with you, really. I want to talk about some stuff that I think is important that a lot of people don't talk about. So here we go. There's a few reasons, and so I'll get into that. But honestly, there's been a lot of heaviness going on lately, and that doesn't mean life is terrible. That doesn't mean everything's bad, but it is just the reality sometimes. And I feel like a lot of people don't talk about what that looks like day to day, especially for business owners, like nothing's going to be perfect all the time. But the things that a business owner is constantly worrying about, thinking about, dealing with is just different. And it comes with the territory. Like we're all honestly sick and twisted that we do this to ourselves and are addicted to the outcome, I guess, or whatever. But it is just a piece of the puzzle that, like I said, I don't think people talk about enough. And that I like the permission slip to be human. I think that's extremely important. So just because things are being heavy, what I noticed there is that it's actually a time that I learn the most, because nowadays, especially because I catch myself, I slow down, I pay attention to other things. Being able to learn to do that during, the twists and turns of life has created a different level of emotional intelligence and also just capacity for me over the years. And it's not easy by any means, but I think it's something worth talking about. So I think what started this, obviously, other than the enormous amount of things that are constantly coming at me, I realized that it's been about a year ago that I started the process of figuring out. It was actually Memorial Day weekend last year that we started the process. I sat in a room with a business advisor and was like, you need to figure out if these things are doable for Punchline Productions. And what I found out, I thought, yep, I can change all of this stuff. It's going to take a financial investment. It's going to take this amount of time, but this is what I know I can create from it. And that was a scary and hard time. It was also a very exciting time, but it quickly got a lot harder. So I think I'm probably going to do a whole conversation about that at some point, because I think there's so much to learn from the craziness that has happened over the past year. It's funny how I genuinely couldn't make it up. If you guys are going to think I'm full of it when I tell you even, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with, which really sucks because I was just coming out of, the hardest life fight I had, for so many years of being sick. So yeah, I'm all right, enough's enough there, whoever's in charge around here. But again, I think that the reason that I've been able to do what I've done since is because I trust what's happening in here and what I know that I'm capable of, but also I've been able to cultivate people around me that I feel good about and feel good working with. The people that aren't here anymore. And that matters a lot, because you kind of have to trust and show up the way that you believe in every day, and then trust that it's going to work out the way that it's supposed to. And I hate even saying that because it's so much easier said than done, but it is the truth. And so I think I started thinking about that, and then just having some issues. So the reality is that my heart space and my bread and butter spot is my coaching business. And what's happened over the past year is my private clients are this, we keep doing what we're doing, but I haven't talked about coaching. I haven't talked about it really much at all until just, again, recently. And it's because the production company, and then out of nowhere comes the barbecue sauce company, they require and have required so much more of me. And these are decisions that I made, by the way, like, but these are lessons that we learned. So I've had to learn how to stop spreading myself too thin when it comes to taking care of everybody, as in my personal life, especially. I think we've talked about this whole enmeshment word, where you basically enmesh your life in with everyone else's constant decisions and things that they're doing. And I've untangled that. It took a really long time. So those were choices, though, that I made, So when you're looking at what's happened over the past year, did I do what was necessary? Absolutely. And we're in a place where I can refocus and everything can grow at the same time. And in that place, though, the thing that happens, I think, is we get scared. We don't want to look a certain way, like we don't care or whatever. But I also think some resentment comes up. I know. Resentment comes up in those places, and it's no one else's fault but our own, though. That's the interesting part. It would be very easy to get caught up in frustration and resentment when you're dealing with large amounts of work and businesses and things that include other people. But here's the part that I think like kind of toppled onto my head over the past few days even, is just that you have to take ownership for the part that you play in any situation. Now, does that mean that you are responsible for other people's poor behavior? No, not at all. No, not at all. And you are responsible for how you allow, what you allow, how you interact, whether you interact, those kinds of things. And so it's not easy, but there's pieces where like I've made the choice to spend as many hours as I spend on these businesses because I believe in them and I care about the people who work here, right? And as a result, it makes other parts of my life more difficult, right? So when resentment shows up very easily for other people who have that responsibility and don't take it, you can't be mad at them per se if you've not said that to them, right? So all you can do is say, hey, I need you to give as much as I'm giving, and this is what that looks like. And then you stop talking, and you do, and you do, and you be, and you watch what happens. I think that one of the biggest lessons I learned over the past 5 years was remembering that I will not allow other people's behavior to alter characteristics that I possess, especially characteristics that I'm super proud of. And I think I told you guys the story once how my mom was talking about Christmas cards. We're a Christmas cards kind of family. And my mom was like, well, they haven't sent me a Christmas card in however many years, so I'm not going to send one this year. And I said, Mom, why do you send a Christmas card? Do you only send it because you expect to get one in return? She goes, well, no. I said, so why do you send them? She goes, because I like doing it. It makes me happy. I said, exactly. So who cares if that person doesn't send you back a card? Maybe it doesn't make them happy to send cards. Maybe that stresses them out. Don't let that stop you from being you. And she was like, you're right. I'm like, yeah, it's something that we enjoy, so we do it. It's not about the other person per se, Like, yeah, it's nice if you bring somebody joy, but that just can't be the motivator, right? Is that because you're going to get something in return? If your motivation is that, you're going to get disappointed a lot. Now, it's a thin line, right? Because you walk between that line and then you walk between the line of a business where it's like, here's what I'm doing and willing to do, and I have to be realistic about what things cost and what we can, how much we can extend. And those are the hard conversations. Those are the conversations nobody wants to have, right? So being able to look at that stuff and sit with it is important. Knowing when to shut off your computer or your phone and walk away from it because you need to think or breathe or take space is probably one of the biggest leadership skills that you can possess, but nobody talks about it. This morning I came into the club here at Adventure Unknown and sat down and was saying something, and I go, yeah, last night, I was real ready to cut a lot of things out. And the guy started laughing. He was like, and that's when you need to take a walk. And I was like, yep, what I did was I just after probably like an hour though. I shut my computer off and I shut off all the windows, and then I had bought a new little laser printer for my labels for the barbecue sauce company. And so I set that up because I know that a task that I can finish and be accomplished and like be done with can reset that feeling in me. I've learned that over the years. These are tools, like tangible things that we can put in our pocket and use in those moments. The crazy thing is, though, I remember a time when my capacity in my nervous system was so low that I couldn't even touch the tools that I had. I want to explain that to you in case somebody's never said it out loud to you, is that happens. It happens to me still as well, but we reach a level of overwhelm or emotional distress or whatever it is. And if it's so big and our nervous system is in fight or flight, we typically don't possess the power, the ability to think about our arsenal or our toolbox full of things that could help us come out of it. It's a bizarre and annoying thing that happens, but that's what it is. I often would tell my coach, like, I genuinely couldn't even think about what I needed to do, let alone do it, right? So with that being said, I think the tool that we can always reach is stopping. You just stop. You walk outside, you stand up, you wash your hands, you take a breath. Like, that isn't really a tool. That's just knowing that when I feel this way, you can teach yourself. When I feel this way, I need to move. When I feel this way, I need to relocate. I need to reset, whatever it might be. And I think a big piece of this growth part is acknowledging that you do also get to choose pieces of this. While there's so much out of your control, you get to choose how you show up. You get to choose when you show up. You get to choose what you think about, care about, all of that stuff. And it's not an easy seat to be in, for a lot of reasons. You know, I have conversations with people every day that are so funny because they're like, yeah, well, we could just do this with the barbecue sauce company, or we could just do this with the podcast company. And that's why, like, recently I wrote a very firm menu, like a pricing menu. Like, this is the bare minimum cost of anything that someone could possibly want us to do. And the interesting piece of that is that, like, I still catch myself thinking that is still not enough. But before I had that, and the reason it was so important to me was so often people are like, oh, yeah, just come out to my, store and film me doing XYZ thing, and it's going to be XYZ whatever, and it'll be so great. It'll be just like a regular episode of your show. And I'm like, no, that's not accurate. Like, the amount of time, just the extra time that it takes a producer, videographer to prepare to go there, then the extra editing that's available or that's necessary, like all of those pieces of the puzzle. And so I tell people, and I'm not gatekeeping on pricing anymore. And when I say this number, like, I'm not profiting barely shit off of it, but it genuinely costs $1,000 for someone to come to your location, shoot an episode, come back, edit it, turn it into an episode, turn it into reels, upload, make the fancy titles and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just the way it costs, right? And I think that money is a big example of something that we get really twisted about, right? And we don't take into consideration the actual pieces that go into it, right? So I used to feel like an ass, like telling people any prices. I hated it. But the truth was, no one here in this particular company, for example, no one here was taking into consideration the cost of the studios, the cost of the equipment, the cost of the driving, the cost, all that shit. So, like, it's been a mind fuck, if we're being honest, how many people just are like, wait, you have to charge me for equipment? I'm like, yeah, because we have to pay for it. Like, I have to also pay to insure it and all of these things. And it's just, after all these years, I still get mind boggled about how many people don't understand that, but even other business owners don't understand that. So if you're listening to this, this is your, like, beacon calling to please be more mindful of other people's knowledge, skill set, ability, needs. Like when you're asking about a service, you need to understand that. And now some people really do, and they're excellent to work with, and praise all the gods for that, right? Like honestly, what a great thing. But it comes down to that same mindset where the person who's paying you $200 is typically going to be more of a pain in the ass than the guy who's paying you $2,000 or $20,000. And it has always been the truth for me. It has always been the truth for almost everybody I know who owns a company. It's kind of a funny but not funny truth that happens. So anyway, I'm kind of getting down a rabbit hole, but I think to bring it back to life, like I feel like we have to, as a society, we have to start talking about the difference, right? Like there's a big difference between exhaustion and like I'm quitting. They feel very similar, just like excitement and anxiety feel very similar in your body. We have to recognize that just because you're exhausted or stressed does not mean that you're lighting everything on fire. But you need to think about that for other people too. It is absolutely okay for someone to say, wow, I had a really stressful day, or I've had a stressful week and I need XYZ time, or I'm, whatever. We don't talk about that enough. And it's funny because this just happened to me today too. One of the reasons I don't talk about that but then I force myself to is because of the comments that I get afterwards. Well, I was just making sure you were okay. And I'm like, I was just being human. That's just humans. And people look to people on the internet specifically. They see people who make content and they think their lives must be great. Is my life terrible? No, it sure is not. Does it have terrible moments? Yeah. Does it have terrible things that I hate, that I'm marrying somebody who I can't talk about all the terrible things that happen that we have to deal with because of his level of fame or whatever it is? Yeah, it's real annoying. Like I would love to just blurt it all out. But being someone of him and his teammates, yes, they have a lot of privileges. And there's a lot of really shitty things about being in that position. A lot of really shitty things about marrying somebody who's in that position. In this past month or so, I've had to deal with a lot of them, and it sucks. And it's heart-wrenching for a lot of reasons. It's heart-wrenching because you have to handle the situation differently than you would or you want to. But also that person, like Tony, isn't allowed to show how devastated he may be about something that's transpired because he has to protect himself. And it just really sucks. And it's just one of those things, that because I can't publicly talk about it, which is my way of sharing and growing and all of those things, I just kind of have to sit with it, and it's like, him and I talk about it. Thank God. Thank God I've morphed Tony into a man who will speak about his feelings over the years. It is lovely. So that part is always good. But I just think, I hate that we feel like, especially women, we feel like we can't say we had a bad day because everybody just thinks that means that we're incapable of functioning, or we're incapable of continuing tomorrow, or that means we're going to be in a terrible mood for 16 days or whatever amount of time. And it's like, man, I can have a hard day and still be okay. I can have a hard day and not be a completely, utterly negative person on and on and on for days. I think that's the problem. That's also the problem with things that have happened on the internet. If we've been conditioned to see people bitch and moan and complain and be terrible when they've had a bad thing happen, so that we just assume that that's how everyone is. And realistically, if you actually sit down and look in the face of a lot of people, that's not how they are at all. Like, we're all just trying to get by. We really, really are. Even the people that you look up to, I've had the privilege of getting to meet people who've had extraordinary lives, with extraordinary wealth and fame and things like that. And it's just people. Like, they really are. It's just a person doing what we all do every day. Their lives may be different, and not all of them handle it well. And but not every poor person handles things well either, right? So again, I just feel like we've got to get to a place where we worry more about how we feel about the way that we're interacting than we do about what other people may or may not be doing. It's funny, I didn't even think about it when I put this shirt on today. So I made this design. This is actually my design. It says Integrity Matters. When I really leaned into what that meant to me, it changed everything. So when I say that the last year with this company especially has been hellacious, like that's an understatement, but through it all, even in the time that there were a couple instances that I lost my temper and I screamed out loud in front of people. Yep, sure did. Yelled legitimately. And afterwards I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I did that. And even then when I'm like questioning, oh my God, Jamie, that's so unprofessional. I can't believe you did that. I was like, if I would have been more in the integrity piece and less in the feeling guilty or trying to give 18 chances to someone who's already shown you that they don't deserve them, that I wouldn't have gotten there. But I wasn't hard on myself beyond that first moment that I did go there. Because again, human. Like we can all only be pushed so hard. And me in that moment, well, it was 2 times in particular, that was me being of extreme integrity because I was like so honest, stood up for myself in such a way that I should have, in another way. But here's the other part. I should have never been in a working relationship with somebody that would push me intentionally to that place, right? So these are all just decisions in growth moments that I think that we get. So I think that over this journey, what I've really realized is the nervous system side of leadership. How important it is to lead yourself and your household and your family and your teams and your clients and whoever with a nervous system that you have a handle on. I paid the cost of chaos and I've been paying it while I've been unraveling someone else's chaos, right? And it's better. It's like night and day 180, right? But I think that the importance of realizing that our nervous system plays a part in everything. And that's where, like, when chaos is existing, we're not able to necessarily see what we're feeling or what we need to be doing in the midst of the chaos, right? So then your nervous system's heightened and you're like, we get very like defensive or on fight or flight, or we just completely shut down. Where if you're practicing and taking care of those pieces, then when bad things happen, like what has happened, I'd say over the last couple of weeks, when something hard occurs, you have the tools, the space to deal with it without it completely breaking you, right? So I think that simplification matters in moments. I think simplification, quite honestly, is underrated across everything, especially when it comes to the processes within a team. So, my brain operates in a place of systems. It creates them, it believes in them, all those things. And something that hit me yesterday was that, there was a couple pieces, and it's really funny. So Josh is filming me, and he's like one of the very few people who did not fall into this category. And I'm actually saying this, and I'm not bullshitting you. But almost every single person that I was working with they don't complete their tasks like all the way through. So I'm sitting here going, am I crazy or are all these things just lingering and no one's like closing their own loops, And what all I can do in that moment as a leader of a team or a leader of several teams is go back to myself and say, okay, it's probably not you if it's every single situation, right? But what can you do differently? Well, what I can do differently is ensure that the system or the process is as simple as possible. Number one, that like meaning the place that we need to get from point A to point B is very clear and the timeline or whatever is very clear from one to the other. The other piece I can control is telling people that if you touch a task, I want you to own that task until it's completed and document it along the way, or like document if you can't get it completed, like let a girl know, right? Let the team know. We have the places for that to be documented. What do I realize though? Am I super great at operating in that place? No. And here's why. Because I've let it become this more complex situation where people are just asking me questions all day instead of using the system. And so then I'm not using the system as much, right? So here's the place where, do I believe a leader or a team leader is always the person that is responsible for a stressful thing in a business or a team? No. But do I believe that we have to take ownership of the parts that we control? Absolutely. Because if you are not 100% sure that that path is clear and that your people and everybody in the place have the tools they need to succeed, if you're not sure of that, then you have got to figure that part out before you say a damn word to anybody else. And honestly, thank God for ChatGPT, because that's where I talk things out in those kinds of instances. Because here's why. And I not only that, but I've trained this chat to coach me like I need to be coached. It's not just tell me what I need to hear, but it also remembers where these things have occurred over the last 3 months or whatever. So I can catch patterns of myself, of the workloads, of financial things that are going on. Like I can catch those patterns, and it's become a really valuable tool. So how do you do that? Well, just real quick, because I feel like no one ever taught me this. So you can teach and tell ChatGPT to always speak to you this way, to poke holes in every idea that you have, to be curious about the underlying reasons behind this and that. And basically you can teach it to question you, not just tell you what it thinks you want to hear, which is what it's designed to do. So careful if you think that your chatbot is just, telling you how great you are all the time. It's maybe not be because you're great. It's just because it is what it's designed to do, unless you train it otherwise. So I can't stand yes men in real life. I certainly don't want a robot that's a yes man. I'm like, this is not productive. So, but in those situations, back to the whole like owning it piece, I think that because I'm able to say, okay, here's what and because the other reason is I love everybody that I work with. I really do. I'm grateful to be in that situation. And it's very important to me that we all are thriving. And so it almost is like sad for me to notice if something's not consistently, if something's consistently not being done. It's like sad thing for me to recognize. And so I'm like, okay, that's a real emotion and that's fine. But how do we then, own that or correct or be more clear about what's going on? So as a creative, I think having something like a chatbot or like one that you can talk to helps in the instance that you can say your creative ideas and have them put on a list. That's what I do. It's called the parking lot list. So, because one of the ways that, especially the girls who work really closely with me, one of the ways that I know I can like send them down a spiral is because I got all kinds of things. I'm like, oh yeah, and then we can do that. Oh yeah, this is a great idea. And then I want to launch this clothing brand, and then we should make this. And then, oh yeah, now make sure Tony does that, blah, 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 and tag here and do that. And I'm very aware of this. Not everybody's brain can keep track of that, nor should they. So if I can speak those things out loud to a place that's recording them, it helps a lot. So I highly suggest you create a parking lot list. It's a good one. So you could genuinely just have whether it's a conversation or whatever is, and whatever, thing that you like to use, or you can have a note on your phone that's your parking lot list. And that's where you pop in your great ideas or the things you want to make room for as a way to get it out of your head. And again, it helps you. What that really does is it helps with controlling your nervous system. Just to be clear, when I talk about things being heavy or bad stuff going on, I want to talk about the fact that it's really a mental overload more than it is anything else. Like I was just talking to a client and we were joking about how we turn like a small thing in our head into this gigantic thing that we put off, we procrastinate on for like a year. And then when we finally do it, it takes like 5 minutes. This is something that our brain does. And so I think it's interesting when we can look at that and think about it's more of a mental load thing than it is a, oh my God, 17 real, like things are broken. It's like, yes, sometimes things are broken, but it's more the mental load of it. And so what I believe can happen there, it's an overload. So we're carrying too many moving parts. So again, what do we do? Sometimes it's a brain dump. Sometimes it's a piece of paper. We write it all down and we throw it away. Sometimes it's a piece of paper. We write it all down and we run it through a system to turn it into a to-do list. Sometimes it's just taking a moment, stepping outside and breathing. Like there's lots of ways for us to recognize or pause when we realize we're carrying too much, and things will start, because if we don't, what happens, things will start slipping through the cracks. And if you're anything like me, when stuff starts slipping through the cracks, but you pride yourself on being very on top of shit, that is not okay. I've gotten way better than I used to be about this. But when things slip through the cracks that affect other people on my team, I do take it really not great. Like I am hard on myself about it, and not as long as I used to be, but it's still there. And then I correct and, do my best for it not to happen again. But again, those are the human moments that I try to keep in the forefront. But I think we have to realize that it is okay sometimes if we feel, what's the word, like emotionally thin. Again, I think that's a sign that we are carrying too much, and we have to prioritize how we're spending our time. Here's a good example. My therapist, I've had the same therapist for 7, 8 years now. And I remember when I first moved back to St. Louis from Iowa, I was talking to her about, it was my little apartment that I loved. It was like my little sanctuary. And I was just talking about, I'd only been there for a couple of months, and I was kind of talking about the way that I was feeling, and it was super down. And I used to say that it felt like I was like walking through mud, which is a very great way to describe depression. And so she asked me, how's your day going? Like, tell me how your days are flowing. And I explained to her that I woke up in the morning and I let the dog out to go to the bathroom. So I was on the upper floor, so I had to walk Bonnie downstairs and take her out to potty, brought her back in, gave her breakfast, made coffee, grabbed, something to eat. And then I'd sit down with my computer or my phone and I'd go through social media and respond to things, respond to emails, whatever. And then I'd have my client calls, and then I'd walk the dog again, and I'd have lunch. And then, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this, you guys, hold on. And then I would, if I went to the gym or whatever, I would go do that. I'd come home. And a lot of that, at that time, I wasn't really going to the gym very often. I'd take a shower. I'd go back. I'd eat and make myself dinner. I'd sit and eat dinner. And here's a problem. Every single thing I just described, I did in my bed. So I'd go do the thing and I'd go sit back in my bed. I'd go do the thing and I'd go sit back in my bed. I'd water my flowers and go sit back in my bed. My whole day consisted of me in that room. And so talk about spreading myself and feeling very emotionally thin. And it's like my mind was not getting what it needed to expand, to simplify, to exist in a way that I felt even remotely good about. Now, granted, there was a time and a place. There still is a place where my bed is a safety place for me at the end of the day. But at that place, it wasn't serving me because I was doing everything in that same place. So what did I do? It's real complex and wild, guys. I ate breakfast at my kitchen table. I worked at my desk, not in my bed. I watched TV in the evening in my living room. And then I would go to bed when it was time for bed. And I watched TV to go to bed. A lot of people hate that, but it's just the truth. That's what I do. So I shifted that, and it was really weird. And it was also, but the weirdest part was that it was such a realistically easy thing to change that changed my whole life. My creativity opened up again. I felt like I was moving around more. I felt way more awake, way more like capable because of that atmosphere shift. And that's something I will never forget, because I know that it is such a big deal if we allow our minds and our systems to change. Like when I'm done filming this, I still have work to do. I'll probably take a walk around the building before I sit down with my computer, because it helps my mind reset. I've been doing that between meetings. I do that when I'm at my house. I'll go outside and breathe or walk, and then I come back in. And just that shift seems so stupid and insignificant, and it is so big. It is a tool that I hope you can teach yourself. Like I said earlier, with like that one thing you can, when you feel this way, I do this thing. This is one of those. I feel like my head is like not able to connect or not able to move forward, then I do this thing. And that's, I move myself. I move around out of the room. That's where standing desks come in too. I have a lot of pain still right now. So like my standing desk doesn't get nearly as much use as I want to give it, because sometimes standing just is like the worst thing I can do. But even if I stand up for 5 minutes at home, I have that desk. You can just push the button, it stands up. Sometimes it has a mind of its own and just starts moving all by itself. But that's always fun when you're on a Zoom call with somebody and your desk goes, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening. This robot has a mind of its own. So I think that something that I can maybe leave you with this is that if you're feeling any of these things, I've been rambling, okay? I told you I was going to riff at the beginning. It just is what it is. If you're feeling any of these things, my suggestion to you would be to pick one or two places that you can tighten up. And what I mean by that is you're tightening it up because you're simplifying it. So for me, I told the girls, only touch the tasks that are yours, even in the places that you think that you're being helpful. Please don't. Only touch the tasks that are yours and document everything in Asana. I've set up this orientation or this like orient 30-minute window for myself that's the first thing that I do in the mornings. Moving forward, I'm a few days in. I'm just telling you, this is the kind of shit that I do. Every time something like this comes up for me, this is the kind of stuff that I'll do to reset and try to just be better and better and better. Something that my coach said to me the other day, and you guys will probably maybe understand this, is I'm extremely growth oriented. If you haven't noticed, it doesn't matter what part of my life it is. The deal is that I feel like when I start to have these kinds of situations come up or uncomfortable places, that's a sign of growth, of possibility for growth. And it's the only thing I know how to do that doesn't leave me feeling depressed. And that's it. Like the only thing I know how to do is to say, okay, how can I shift this to feel better or more simple? So reducing noise, finding a place. When I say noise, that means the amount of crap that's getting thrown into your head. That means like, unfortunately, there's weeks that I can't talk on the phone. Like I can't respond to text messages about personal stuff. I don't have it in me, and that's okay. Building sustainable operations. So I think when we build sustainable, and that's the biggest word, sustainable, meaning it lasts all the time, no matter what's going on. Those processes and systems matter so much because they have to be simple. And those are the places that you will find yourself over and over and over again. I have people that pay me a lot of money to be their coach, and I'll tell you what, they'll tell you that one of the main things that we do periodically is go back to basics. Over and over and over again. And this is every person that you admire. I promise you that if their basics are not being met, their foundational items, they go back to them. Every time they feel off, they go back to their basics. Every time. It's just the thing that we have control over. Basics are typically things like sleep, food, movement, water, communication. Really, like honestly, like as a business owner, if you're doing those 5 things consistently well, things are probably going pretty good. Truth. Those back to basics, those basic pieces, that foundation, I have a whole course about foundations, but that foundation matters so much more than we give it credit for, because we think, oh, that stuff doesn't matter that much because it's so simple. Yeah, but it's not easy. Going to the gym every day is not easy. Eating the way that you know that your body needs to feel the most healthy isn't always easy. Drinking enough water for the love of all that is holy is not easy for me, at least. Like, drives me nuts. Look, obviously today I'm not doing great. Halfway through the day, I need to chug more of this. So those basic things may be simple, but they're not easy. And that's the reason people avoid them, is because they feel like, because it's so simple, that they should be able to master them. That's the name of the game right there. There's 1,000,000 books written about just that thing. There's 1,000,000 books about 1,000 different ways, probably tens of thousands of different ways, to approach the foundational basics that you need to be happy, healthy, and have mental clarity. That's it. Because that is what everyone's chasing. So here's the deal, guys. As you know, sometimes I just talk all over, I just talk. Whether you found any value in any of that, I don't know. I know the thing that I believe in is when we storytell and we talk, there's a reason the words come out of us and they find the people who need them. And I believe that every single person that listens to a podcast or a video or a reel even, that they're going to find the piece of that they needed. And then I've done my job. So that's the reason why all of these years later, I'm still standing here talking to you, is because I truly believe that. And I believe if there are words that need to come out of my mouth, they will, because someone needs to hear them. So that's it. So thank you so much for being here. As always, if you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to our channels. And if you have not left a review for the show, I would really appreciate it if you did. It helps us get out in front of more people. And until next time, I will see you later. You know, I used to think hot tubs were just for fancy vacations or luxury houses. But then I met Angie at Spas and More, this family-owned and operated business right here in St. Louis. She showed me how these master spas aren't just luxurious, they're about wellness. I actually got to try one out in their showroom, and it made me realize how much better I feel after a soak. If you want to experience what actually fits your lifestyle, go see Angie and her team in Sunset Hills. It's like test driving your own wellness. Visit Spas and More in Sunset Hills or online at spasandmorestl.com. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. That's the way to support this message. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.